seeds of ambition. The rain pattered against the tin roof of their modest apartment as Prisha Sharma counted the day's earnings from their small electronics repair shop. 843 rupees. Better than yesterday, but still not enough. She recorded the amount in their worn ledger, her handwriting neat despite her exhaustion. Vikram will be so disappointed, she whispered to herself, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The door creaked open, and her husband entered, drenched but smiling. At 28, Vikram Sharma carried himself with quiet confidence despite their financial struggles. His engineering degree from a second-tier university had failed to secure him a corporate position, but his technical skills were undeniable. How was today? He asked, hanging his wet jacket on the hook by the door. Prisha showed him the ledger. Better than yesterday. The Malhotra family finally paid for their television repair. Instead of disappointment, Vikram's smile widened. It doesn't matter. I have news. He pulled a damp envelope from his pocket. Remember that circuit board design I submitted to the innovation competition? I won the grant, Prisha. 5 lakhs to develop the prototype. That night marked the beginning of their ascent. The prototype, a cost-effective power management system for rural areas, attracted attention from investors. Within 2 years, Victech Solutions occupied the entire floor of a commercial building in Pune's technology district. By the 5th year, they had expanded to 3 cities. Success transformed their lives. They moved from their tiny apartment to a spacious villa in an exclusive neighborhood. Their wardrobe evolved from practical to designer. Their transportation upgraded from a second-hand scooter to luxury vehicles. But success was transforming Vikram in other ways too. You need to dress the part now, he told Prisha one evening as they prepared for a business dinner. These investors expect a certain image. Prisha glanced at her simple cotton salwar kameez. What's wrong with how I dress? Nothing for a housewife, but you're the wife of Victech's CEO now. He handed her a credit card. Buy something more sophisticated. Though the word stung, Prisha complied. She had always been his support system, managing their home and finances while he focused on business growth. Her economics degree remained unused professionally, but she applied its principles to their personal investments, quietly growing their savings. As Victech expanded, Vikram traveled frequently, leaving Prisha to manage their household and social obligations. During one such period of solitude, she received a call from her college friend, Anjali Kapoor. I'm starting a hospitality venture, Anjali explained. Nothing fancy, just renovating my grandfather's old property in Lonavala into a boutique guest house. I need a business partner with investment capital and financial acumen. The opportunity resonated with Prisha. Using her personal savings, money Vikram knew nothing about, she invested in Anjali's venture. Within a year, Mountain Mist Retreats became profitable enough to purchase a second property. Meanwhile, Vikram's success brought new associates into their lives, including Rohit Mehra, a venture capitalist whose interest in Victech seemed excessive. During one dinner at their home, Prisha overheard a conversation between Rohit and Vikram that made her blood run cold. The company valuation will double once we move manufacturing overseas, Rohit said. The board won't need to know about the quality compromises. What about the rural electrification mission? Vikram asked. That was the whole point. The point, my friend, is profit, Rohit replied. Leave the idealism to NGOs. Later that night, Prisha confronted her husband. You built Victech to help communities like the one we came from. Are you really willing to abandon that? Vikram's response was dismissive. Business evolves, Prisha. You wouldn't understand, you've never built anything of your own. His words planted a seed. While Vikram traveled to international conferences and investor meetings, Prisha expanded her partnership with Anjali. Their boutique guest houses became sought-after destinations, and within 3 years, they acquired their first luxury property, a neglected heritage mansion they transformed into the Maharani Resort and Spa. What began as a small investment was evolving into an empire, one that Prisha built while her husband was too busy to notice the ambition growing in his once submissive wife. Shattered trust. The crystal chandelier cast prismatic patterns across the marble floor as Vikram adjusted his custom-tailored Armani suit. Victech's 10th anniversary gala was the social event of the season, with investors, politicians, and celebrities gathered to celebrate the company's meteoric rise. Is my tie straight? He asked, not bothering to look at Prisha. She stepped forward, adjusting the silk Windsor knot with practiced hands. At 38, Prisha had blossomed into a woman of quiet elegance. Her simple gold jewelry complemented her midnight blue designer sari, a stark contrast to her humble attire from their early days. Perfect, she assured him, though his eyes were already on his phone, scrolling through messages. The distance between them had grown with each successful fiscal quarter. Vikram now viewed her as an accessory to his success, beautiful, supportive, but ultimately peripheral to his ambitions. What he failed to realize was that while he climbed corporate ladders, Prisha had been building her own empire. Mountain Mist Hospitality Group just acquired the Jasmine Valley property, Anjali informed Prisha over their weekly lunch. That makes 7 luxury resorts in our portfolio, not counting the 3 boutique locations. Prisha nodded, satisfaction evident in her serene smile. The board approved my proposal for international expansion. We'll begin evaluating properties in Thailand next month. And Vikram still has no idea you're the chairperson of a hospitality group valued at over 60 crore rupees? Anjali asked, amazement coloring her voice. He's too occupied with his own achievements to inquire about my ladies' lunches or charity meetings, Prisha replied. Besides, all documents list me as PS Ventures. He wouldn't connect it even if he saw the paperwork. The irony wasn't lost on her. The same dismissal that once hurt her now provided the freedom to build something meaningful without interference. Her business philosophy differed fundamentally from what VicTech had become. She prioritized sustainability, employee welfare, and community integration over rapid expansion and profit margins. That evening, returning home from her meeting with Anjali, Prisha found an unfamiliar woman's earring on the passenger seat of Vikram's car. The delicate diamond stud wasn't hers. She preferred traditional gold jewelry. A coincidence, perhaps, but it aligned with other subtle changes in her husband. Late-night business calls conducted in whispers, new cologne, unexplained weekend conferences. Rather than confront him immediately, Prisha observed. Her economics training had taught her to gather data before drawing conclusions. 2 weeks later, conclusive evidence arrived in the form of a misdirected text message to their shared iPad. Can't wait for Goa this weekend. The hotel looks amazing. D. The message was intended for Vikram's private phone, but technology had betrayed the betrayal. Prisha felt a curious calm as she pieced together the story. Dia Mathur, VicTech's new marketing director, had caught more than the company's public image in her professionally manicured hands. That night, when Vikram announced another urgent business trip, Prisha simply nodded. Goa should be lovely this time of year, she remarked casually. The flash of panic in his eyes confirmed everything. It's just a client meeting. Very boring. Of course, she replied, returning to her book. I have meetings with investors myself this weekend. Confusion crossed his features. What investors? For the children's education charity, she lied smoothly. You remember, the foundation I mentioned. He nodded, relieved at the simple explanation. Right. Always proud of your volunteer work, darling. As he packed, Prisha made a decision. She wouldn't confront him, not yet. Instead, she called Anjali. Remember our discussion about acquiring a property in Goa? I think it's time to move forward, she said. In fact, I want to be personally involved in this acquisition. While Vikram prepared for his weekend of deception, Prisha orchestrated a different kind of surprise. The Sapphire Bay Resort was already part of their acquisition shortlist, a struggling but architecturally stunning property on Goa's pristine coastline. A few calls expedited the process, and by morning, preliminary agreements were signed. Mountain Mist Hospitality Group would begin management transition immediately, though the formal acquisition would take weeks. What Vikram didn't know was that his reservation at Sapphire Bay, booked under his assistant's name for discretion, would place him in the resort that was now effectively under his wife's control. Meanwhile, at VicTech headquarters, Prisha made an unscheduled visit. Bypassing her husband's secretary, she knocked directly on Dia Mathur's office door. The woman who answered was everything Prisha had imagined. Young, impeccably styled, with ambition radiating from her perfectly contoured features. Mrs. Sharma. What a surprise, Dia stammered, quickly closing a travel website on her computer. I won't take much of your time, Ms. Mathur, Prisha said pleasantly. I'm just delivering some documents for Vikram. I understand you'll see him before I will. Dia's composure faltered momentarily. I'm not sure what you mean. Prisha placed a sealed envelope on the desk. Marketing materials for his Goa presentation, of course. What else could I mean? Her smile never reached her eyes. The Sapphire Bay Resort is quite beautiful, isn't it? Especially the presidential suite. The color drained from Dia's face as Prisha turned to leave. One more thing, Prisha added from the doorway. Do enjoy your weekend. The forecast predicts quite a storm. As she walked through Victech's glossy headquarters, the empire built on her support and sacrifice, Prisha felt neither rage nor despair, but a crystalline clarity. For a decade she had been defined as Vikram Sharma's wife. Now it was time for him to discover who she had become while he wasn't paying attention. That evening, she packed her own suitcase for Goa. The Sapphire Bay Resort's new management would receive a very hands-on introduction to their chairperson, along with 2 guests who had no idea what awaited them. The fateful encounter, the Sapphire Bay Resort rose like a pearl-white mirage against the azure backdrop of the Arabian Sea. Colonial architecture blended with contemporary luxury, creating an atmosphere of timeless elegance that had once made it the crown jewel of Goa's hospitality scene. Recent mismanagement had tarnished its reputation, but the bones of greatness remained. Precisely what had attracted Mountain Mist Hospitality Group's interest. Prisha arrived before dawn, her car pulling into the service entrance where Anjali waited with Nikhil Desai, the efficiency expert they'd brought to evaluate operations. The transition team is already in place, Anjali reported. Staff has been informed of the management change, though not about your personal connection to the situation. Prisha nodded, dark circles beneath her eyes betraying her sleepless night. What about the reservation under Kapadia's name? Presidential suite confirmed for check-in this afternoon, Nikhil confirmed, consulting his tablet. 2 guests, 3-night stay. Has the suite been prepared according to my specifications? Prisha asked. Yes, Chairperson. The special amenities package has been arranged and the security protocols updated to provide maximum discretion. Prisha surveyed the property as sunrise painted the marble facade in golden hues. For 10 years she had channeled her intelligence and ambition into supporting Vikram's dreams while quietly building something of her own. Now those parallel lives were about to converge in ways her husband couldn't imagine. I'll be taking the Ocean View suite, she informed them. No special treatment. I'm here as PS Ventures, conducting a standard acquisition evaluation. By noon, Prisha had toured the kitchens, maintenance facilities, and staff quarters. She'd sampled the menu, tested the spa services, and reviewed financial records. To the staff, she was merely the representative of their new management company, professional, observant but otherwise unremarkable. At 3:17 p.m., her phone buzzed with a text from the head of security. Target vehicle approaching main entrance. From her position in the lobby's discreet business center, Prisha had an unobstructed view of the arrival area. Vikram's Audi pulled up to the portico where eager valets rushed forward. Her husband emerged first, sunglasses concealing his eyes, posture radiating the confidence of a man accustomed to luxury. He circled to the passenger door with theatrical gallantry. Dia stepped out, her flowing designer sundress and oversized hat creating the perfect image of a woman on a romantic getaway. She giggled as Vikram whispered something in her ear, his hand settling possessively on the small of her back, a gesture once reserved for Prisha. Welcome to Sapphire Bay Resort. Sir, the manager greeted them with practiced warmth. We've been expecting you. Prisha watched as they were escorted to the presidential suite, her heart curiously steady. The pain of betrayal had calcified into something harder, more resolute. This wasn't about emotional confrontation, it was about reclaiming her narrative. After giving them time to settle in, she called Anjali. Implement Phase 2 at 7:30 p.m. As Vikram and Dia enjoyed cocktails on their private balcony, overlooking the sunset-dappled sea, they received an engraved invitation. The new management cordially requests your presence at an exclusive dinner for distinguished guests. Sunset Terrace, 8:30 p.m. We should go, Dia suggested, excitement brightening her features. Networking with hotel management could be useful for Victech's corporate retreats. Vikram agreed, always eager for business opportunities even during his illicit escape. The Sunset Terrace had been transformed into an intimate dining venue for seemingly important guests. Soft lighting, floral arrangements, and a string quartet created an atmosphere of refined exclusivity. The maitre d' guided Vikram and Dia to a prime table with an ocean view. The other guests will join shortly, he informed them. The management director has selected a special wine for your enjoyment while you wait. Vikram scanned the terrace, assessing the other diners, all carefully selected couples uninvolved in Prisha's orchestration. Any idea who we're meeting? He asked the server. Only that they're very interested in meeting you, sir, came the cryptic reply. As they sipped their wine, a rare vintage that Prisha knew was Vikram's favorite, a familiar figure approached from the shadows of the garden pathway. Anjali Kapoor, dressed in executive attire, strode confidently toward their table. Recognition flickered across Vikram's face. Anjali from Prisha's college? Mr. Sharma, what a surprise, Anjali replied with practiced surprise. I wouldn't have expected to see you here. Dia shifted uncomfortably as Vikram attempted to maintain composure. Just a quick business retreat. Anjali, this is Dia Mathur, Victech's marketing director. Charmed, Anjali replied coolly. I'm Anjali Kapoor, COO of Mountain Mist Hospitality Group. We've just acquired this property. Before Vikram could process this information, the maitre d' approached again. The owner has arrived and would like to welcome you personally. Prisha emerged from the same garden path, draped in a stunning emerald silk sari that emphasized the quiet authority she'd cultivated during her years of invisible empire building. The string quartet transitioned to a more dramatic composition as she approached, every step measured and deliberate. Time seemed to freeze as Vikram registered his wife's presence. The wine glass in his hand tilted dangerously, dark liquid sloshing against crystal. Prisha, he whispered, face draining of color. What are you doing here? Welcoming you to my resort, of course, she replied, her voice steady despite the thundering of her heart. I do hope the presidential suite meets your expectations. I personally oversaw its recent renovation. Dia's eyes darted between husband and wife, comprehension dawning with horrifying clarity. You're Mrs. Sharma? Chairperson Sharma, actually. PS Ventures, Prisha corrected gently. Mountain Mist Hospitality Group has been acquiring and revitalizing properties across India for 7 years now. Sapphire Bay is our 16th acquisition. Vikram's shock gave way to defensive anger. Is this some kind of setup? Have you been spying on me? Nothing so melodramatic, Prisha replied, signaling a server who appeared with a portfolio. I'm simply conducting business. These are the acquisition papers for Sapphire Bay Resort. And these, she added, producing another document, are divorce papers. I thought you might appreciate the efficiency of handling both transactions during your stay. The quartet continued playing. The other diners remained oblivious. But at that table overlooking the darkening ocean, a decade-long marriage was dissolving with the same quiet dignity with which it had been sustained. You can't be serious, Vikram hissed, conscious of maintaining appearances. We need to discuss this privately. I agree, Prisha nodded. Ms. Mathur, I imagine you'd prefer to return to your room. This is, after all, a private matter. Dia gathered her belongings with trembling hands. I should never have. I didn't realize, she stammered before fleeing the terrace. As the night deepened around them, husband and wife faced each other across the table. She, the hidden architect of success. He, the man who had failed to see her worth until it was displayed in the empire she had built without him. Moment of truth. The resort's executive office was intentionally intimidating. Dark teak furniture, awards and acquisition photos lining the walls, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the moonlit sea. Prisha sat behind the massive desk, her posture relaxed yet authoritative, while Vikram paced like a caged animal. 7 years, he repeated, struggling to reconcile the wife he thought he knew with the business magnate before him. You've been running a hospitality empire for 7 years without my knowledge? 8 years, 3 months, Prisha corrected. The first year was purely investment and planning. We became operational with our first property acquisition 7 years ago. Vikram collapsed into the chair opposite her. But how? Where did you get the capital? A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. Remember when you gave me that credit card and told me to dress the part of a CEO's wife? I did invest in designer clothes, the minimum necessary to meet your expectations. The rest I invested in mutual funds, then property. With what starting capital? He demanded. My inheritance from my grandmother. The money you called insignificant and suggested I spend on jewelry. Prisha leaned forward. 1 crore might seem insignificant to Victech's CEO, but properly invested, it grew. Anjali brought hospitality expertise. I brought financial acumen and capital. Together, we built something meaningful. Vikram's expression cycled through disbelief, anger, and a reluctant admiration. Why keep it secret? Were you planning this? Ambush? All along? No, Prisha answered honestly. Initially, I kept it quiet, because you dismissed my business sense so often that I wanted to prove myself without your criticism or interference. Later, as you grew more distant, it became clear you weren't interested in my activities anyway. She retrieved a tablet from her desk drawer and turned it to face him. On screen was a graph showing Mountain Mist Hospitality Group's growth compared to Victech's. The trajectories were remarkably similar until recent years, when her company's sustainable growth continued upward, while Victech's plateaued. Your company is worth more than mine, he realized, voice hollow. Not yet, but our projections suggest we'll surpass Victech's market value within 18 months, sooner if the quality control issues with your overseas manufacturing continue. The color drained from Vikram's face. How did you know about? I may not be your business partner, but I'm still an investor. The irregularities in your quarterly reports raised red flags. The rest was simple investigation. Thunder rumbled in the distance as monsoon clouds gathered offshore, mirroring the storm brewing between them. Prisha rose and walked to the windows, watching lightning flicker across the horizon. The truth is, Vikram, I never planned to reveal any of this to you this way. I was content building my company while supporting yours. But then I found Dia's earring in your car. That was... I can explain. Please don't insult my intelligence further, Prisha interrupted, turning to face him. Your affair is actually the least significant betrayal between us. You betrayed yourself first, abandoned the principles that made Victech meaningful. You compromised quality to cut costs, prioritized profit over the rural communities you promised to serve. Business evolves, he said defensively, echoing his dismissal from years earlier. Yes, it does. And so do people. She returned to her seat. I'm not angry about Dia specifically. I'm disappointed by what you've become. A man who treats commitments as disposable, whether to his wife or to his company's mission. Rain began to pelt the windows as Vikram's defensive posture crumbled. What happens now? He asked, suddenly looking older than his 40 years. That depends on you, Prisha replied, sliding the divorce papers across the desk. These terms are fair, perhaps even generous. I'm not interested in dismantling what you've built, only in freeing myself to focus fully on what I've built. Vikram stared at the documents, decades of memories flashing behind his eyes. And if I refuse to sign? Then we proceed through conventional channels, with conventional public exposure. Her voice remained calm, but her meaning was clear. Your choice. For the first time since his arrival, genuine emotion broke through Vikram's carefully constructed facade. When did we lose each other, Prisha? I think it happened gradually, she answered, unexpected compassion softening her features. Success changed you, and responding to those changes transformed me. We became strangers sharing a home. A knock at the door interrupted them. Anjali entered, her expression professional but eyes concerned as they darted between the estranged couple. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's a situation, she addressed Prisha. Ms. Mathur is attempting to check out despite the storm. The roads to the airport are already flooding, and management has advised against travel. Prisha sighed. Have guest services prepare a different room for her, the farthest possible from the presidential suite. Ensure her safety and comfort, but with appropriate distance. After Anjali departed, Vikram looked at his wife with new eyes. You're not going to humiliate her further? What would be the point? Prisha shrugged. She's a symptom, not the cause. My issue is with you, not her. The revelation seemed to deflate what remained of Vikram's defiance. You've become extraordinary, he admitted quietly. I failed to notice. That's precisely the problem, Prisha replied. But it's no longer relevant. As if punctuating her statement, lightning cracked outside, momentarily bathing the office in harsh white light before plunging it back into shadow. In that flash, their roles had reversed completely. Prisha, the powerful CEO, Vikram, the uncertain supplicant. With deliberate movements, he reached for the fountain pen she'd placed beside the divorce papers. Before I sign, I need to know one thing. Was any of it real? Did you ever love me? The question pierced through Prisha's carefully maintained composure. I loved you completely, she answered, her voice barely audible above the rain. From our first tiny apartment through every sacrifice and celebration, I loved you enough to support your dreams while quietly pursuing my own. I loved you until your actions made it impossible to continue. Vikram nodded slowly, accepting the truth of her words. With a steady hand that belied his inner turmoil, he signed the papers. What will you tell people? He asked, returning the pen to its holder. The truth, in its simplest form, Prisha replied. That we grew in different directions, that it was amicable. The rest is private. The storm intensified outside, but within the office, a strange calm had settled. The confrontation they had both dreaded had come and gone, leaving clarity in its wake. You should return to your suite, Prisha suggested, gathering the signed documents. The staff will assist with alternative accommodations for tomorrow. As Vikram reached the door, he paused. The resort is beautiful, Prisha. You've created something remarkable. So did you once, she replied. Perhaps you can again. After he departed, Prisha remained at her desk, watching the tempest rage across the coastline. The storm would pass by morning. Some things, however, were permanently altered, transformed, by forces that once unleashed could never be contained again. She picked up her phone and dialed a familiar number. It's done, she told Anjali. Begin implementation of the contingency plan for Victech shares first thing tomorrow. She hadn't mentioned this part to Vikram. That Mountain Mist's parent company had been quietly acquiring Victech stock through proxy investors for months. Not enough for a hostile takeover, but sufficient to influence the board when combined with her personal shares and those of sympathetic investors concerned about the company's ethical drift. This wasn't revenge. It was resurrection. Victech would return to its original mission. She would make certain of it, even if its founder had lost his way. Outside, the storm began to abate, dark clouds giving way to patches of starlit sky. A fitting metaphor, Prisha thought, for the clarity that sometimes emerges only after weathering life's most turbulent moments. Rising from ashes, morning broke over Sapphire Bay Resort with the pristine clarity that follows a monsoon storm. Debris scattered across the manicured grounds spoke of the night's tempest, but the structural integrity of the property remained uncompromised, a testament to thoughtful design and proper maintenance. Prisha walked the grounds at dawn, clipboard in hand, noting necessary repairs while staff hurried about restoring order. The physical storm had passed, but its emotional counterpart continued to reverberate through her being. She had confronted her husband, finalized her divorce, and set in motion plans to reclaim the company they had once built together. All within 12 hours. The kitchen roof sustained minor damage, Nikhil reported, joining her inspection. Repairs are already underway. Otherwise, we weathered the storm remarkably well. And our special guests? Prisha inquired, her voice professional despite the personal nature of the question. Ms. Mathur departed at first light. We arranged a car service to the airport. Mr. Sharma remains in his suite. He's requested a late checkout. Prisha nodded, unsurprised. Approved. And prepare an invoice reflecting standard rates, not complimentary accommodation. This is business, not personal. Nikhil hesitated before asking, And the board meeting scheduled for this afternoon? Proceed as planned. I'll attend virtually from the resort. As staff cleared fallen palm fronds and restored displaced lounge chairs, Prisha found herself drawn to the shoreline. The Arabian Sea stretched before her, its surface calmer now but bearing subtle reminders of yesterday's turmoil in its churning depths. Much like her own emotions, superficially composed, profoundly transformed. Her phone buzzed with Anjali's name on the screen. It's happening, her friend and business partner announced without preamble. Financial news outlets are reporting unexpected volatility in VicTech shares. Our brokers have executed the first wave of purchases at the target price. And the board members we contacted? Responsive to our concerns about the company's ethical drift, especially after receiving those quality control documents. Prisha watched a flock of seabirds wheeling against the brightening sky. Keep me updated. I want controlling interest by week's end. After ending the call, she continued her solitary walk along the shoreline, memories washing over her like the gentle waves lapping at her feet. The tiny apartment where she had once counted meager repair shop earnings. The night Vikram won his first innovation grant. The gradual erosion of their partnership as success reshaped him into someone unrecognizable. A voice called her name, interrupting her reverie. Turning, she found Vikram approaching, his designer clothes incongruous against the natural backdrop of sand and sea. I thought I might find you here, he said, stopping a respectful distance away. Gone was yesterday's defensive hostility, replaced by something resembling humility. You always did love the ocean at dawn. Is there something else you need, Vikram? Prisha asked, maintaining professional distance. The papers are signed and filed electronically. Your checkout has been extended as requested. He shook his head. I came to apologize properly, not to negotiate terms. What I did was unforgivable, not just the affair, but the years of dismissing your capabilities, the gradual betrayal of everything we once stood for together. Prisha studied him, searching for signs of manipulation or insincerity. Finding none, she softened slightly. Apology accepted. But it doesn't change our path forward. I know. He gazed out at the horizon. I received a call from Rohit this morning. VicTech shares are fluctuating dramatically. There are rumors of a potential takeover. Though her expression remained neutral, Prisha's heart accelerated. Markets are unpredictable, she remarked, avoiding confirmation. It's you, isn't it? Vikram asked, surprising her with his directness. Mountain Mist, or whatever parent company you've established, is acquiring VicTech. After a moment's deliberation, she nodded. Not as revenge, Vikram. As recovery. The company has strayed too far from its founding mission. Rather than anger, his expression reflected resignation tinged with something like relief. You'll do better with it than I have recently, he acknowledged. The drive for endless growth corrupted something that once mattered. They stood in silence, watching the strengthening sunlight dance across the water's surface. Former partners now on opposite shores of a divide too wide to bridge. What will you do? Prisha finally asked. I've been offered a visiting position at IIT Delhi, teaching engineering innovation to graduate students. A small, genuine smile crossed his features. Perhaps I can be useful there, mentoring young minds before they're tempted by the compromises I made. Prisha nodded approvingly. You were always an exceptional teacher. And you, he said, were always exceptional. I just failed to see it. He extended his hand formally. I wish you and Mountain Mist continued success, Chairperson Sharma. She accepted the handshake, their first physical contact in months, now transformed into a business gesture. And I wish you fulfillment in your new direction, Professor Sharma. As Vikram walked away, Prisha remained by the shoreline, contemplating how endings and beginnings often occupied the same moment in time. Her marriage was over, but her vision for both companies was just beginning to materialize. 6 months later, Prisha stood at the podium in VicTech's renovated headquarters, addressing employees and press at the unveiling of the company's new direction. Today marks not just a corporate restructuring, but a recommitment to our founding principles, she announced to the packed auditorium. VicTech Solutions began with a simple premise, that technology should serve communities, not just shareholders. We lost sight of that mission temporarily, but with your support, we're returning to our roots, while branching toward a more sustainable future. The presentation screens displayed the company's revamped rural electrification initiative, now expanded to include water purification and internet connectivity solutions for underserved regions. Under the unified banner of Sharma Sustainable Technologies, VicTech and Mountain Mist will operate as complementary entities with shared values, technical innovation and hospitality excellence, both dedicated to improving lives while preserving environments. From the back of the auditorium, a familiar face caught her attention. Vikram, more casual in professor's attire, had accepted her invitation to attend. Their eyes met briefly across the crowded room. mutual respect replacing the complex emotions that had once defined their relationship. Later, at the reception, they spoke briefly. His academic research was progressing. Her corporate integration was succeeding beyond projections. The conversation was cordial, professional. Former spouses who had found separate paths to redemption. "Your parents would be proud," Vikram told her, referencing the educators who had instilled in Prisha a sense of purpose beyond personal gain. "You've built something meaningful." "So have you," she replied, gesturing to the group of graduate students he had brought to observe the corporate transformation. Just in a different arena. As the event concluded, Prisha found herself on the rooftop garden of the headquarters building, momentarily escaping the demands of her dual leadership roles. Bangalore spread before her, a tapestry of lights against the evening sky. Anjali joined her, champagne flutes in hand. "To new beginnings," she toasted. "Though I must say your capacity for forgiveness surprises me. I might not have invited my cheating ex to witness my triumph." Prisha accepted the champagne with a thoughtful smile. It wasn't about forgiveness or triumph. It was about closure and continuity. The companies we built deserve cohesive histories, not fractured narratives. "And personally?" Anjali pressed gently. "Are you ready for your own new beginning? Aditya from the investment group has asked about you again." Prisha laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in years. "One reconstruction at a time, please. The companies first, then perhaps my personal life." As darkness settled over the city, Prisha contemplated the empire she had built, not from vengeance but from vision. The confrontation at Sapphire Bay had been necessary, but it wasn't the defining moment of her journey. That moment was now, standing amid the manifestation of her long-held dreams, finally visible to the world. She had never needed Vikram's validation to know her worth, only the freedom to express it fully. In losing a husband, she had reclaimed herself, not as someone's wife or support system, but as the architect of her own destiny. The night air carried the scent of possibility as Prisha raised her glass to the glittering horizon. "To building what matters," she whispered to herself, "and to the strength that comes from being underestimated." Below, the companies she commanded hummed with renewed purpose. Ahead, a future stretched unbounded by others' limitations, and within, the quiet certainty that some empires aren't built on conquest but on conviction, rising not from others' ashes but from one's own transformation.